Ben and Josh Safdie and Rob Pattinson. Thank you very much for coming in. And congratulations on Good Time, which people should go out and see. It was a big hit out of Cannes and many other festivals. I saw it at Carlo Vivari, and people love it all around the world.
Awesome.
So I want to just begin by asking the Safdie brothers. People should know you guys are brothers if they can't see the resemblance.
Yeah, I know.
If he shaved, it would be much more apparent.
If I shaved, you'd be like, oh my god, he doesn't have a chin. So.
Well, let me ask you guys. You called this your first movie.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, we've been incubating and making these movies for a decade now, and almost stubbornly so, and refusing to kind of engage with the movie industry in a weird way, just because we wanted to just make sure we had our language down. And this is when we set out to make this movie, we wanted to make a piece of pulp, a piece of entertainment, a movie that kind of is greater than a superhero movie, greater than CG. It's showing you what money can't buy, and it's like a thrilling movie that actually thrills. That all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, wait a second, is someone actually going to come in and arrest Rob or Connie at one point, like actually, or violence actually feels like someone's actually getting hurt. So in that regard,
at the same time, we always thought every one of our movies is a blockbuster. Sure, but this actually could be a blockbuster.
Well, we should note, like, Heaven Knows What You Did with Real People, Daddy Long Legs with kids. So this is your first movie star that you have teamed up with. What made you first think of Mr. Pattinson? And then I'm going to ask him what drew him to.
No one ever thinks of me.
Yes.
Well, no, he actually, and to that point, to that point exactly, he made us think about it.
Okay.
He reached out to us.
Take it away, please. Tell us how did this begin? What was the beginning of the relationship, Rob?
Me. I mean, it's like I've told the story too many times. I'm just like, oh, whatever. It's like, I mean, I did this. I saw this still from the previous movie on the banner of a website, and then kind of sent this sort of crazy, obsessive email saying, I know, but this is supposed to happen. It's meant to be, and
very much like the character in the movie.
And then when we met, I mean, I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't seen the trailer or anything, and we sort of agreed to do a movie which didn't exist, based on nothing.
Well, so
based on my obsessions.
Yeah. Well, so once you guys were all on board here, the sort of character development that you did is unusually in depth, from what I understand, from emails and character. It sounds like to charting out emotions and all this. So I wonder if you can each just talk a little bit about what you did in advance before any cameras were rolling that led to this feeling like such an electric movie.
Yeah, just to touch on the emails, it was they were ideally letters, that Connie was writing from jail to Nick.
Connie, Rob's character.
Yeah. And then I play Nick. And Josh said to Rob, he said, I want you to write a letter to Nick, and it was going to come out of the blue. And he told me that it was going to be coming. I wasn't going to know when, and then to BCC him in response. And so he was privy, and then so was Ronnie Bronstein, who Josh wrote it with, to this kind of like 2-month-long conversation where he was trying to skirt the grandmother, and then he was trying to kind of subvert Nick's ideas and feelings, and he learned that if you say certain things to Nick, it's going to tip him off the wrong way, and it's going to shut off the relationship. And the last thing he wanted was that to happen.
I like the one when I told you not to respond.
Yeah, I just didn't respond. Yeah, it was a charge like, don't respond to this one.
So you forced him to send another one, being like, haven't heard from you, Nick. You're like, but the character development is something. It's just the necessary work that has to get done, especially because, we were coming from working with, our previous film, the lead actress is not only a first-time professional, it's her story that she's reenacting. And with Rob, he's not Connie. He doesn't come from that world. So, like, it was kind of an effort for us to know how he would move in the narrative, was to just really know this character, and for him to be able to pull from a life of character development. And we started off like broadly, and then I just kind of got into it, and I was like, no, we can't really gloss over, age 1 to 4. We have to like show what's going on in that early. We were thinking like Freud almost. So we ended up breaking it down into like 3-month periods throughout his whole life, and then ends up minutes before his character actually enters the movie.
I think that was the interesting thing as well. When you do something having such a detailed backstory, you can it's not just like, oh, he did this at this point and that, but if it's something so detailed, you can really see the patterns in someone's behavior. So it actually looks like you can actually see what a character is, rather than just kind of have just a few events in their life.
I mean, it is worth noting that like when we did this stuff, like now as we're entering like the promotional part of the of this process, I didn't even realize that that was like a thing. Like the character, I mentioned it when we were talking about it in Cannes, and then all of a sudden I'm like, kind of I don't know. It's like it's not like a thing that we're doing. It's very organic. Is my point, is that we were kind of doing it because we had to do it.
Yeah. And you guys, even I was seeing in one interview, were charting the emotional.
That was weird. That was weird.
Well, that was
makes sense.
Well, it was like we kind of went crazy at one point. We're like, okay, what's wrong? We were watching the movie. We're like, there's something wrong with this edit, this version of it. And it's like, what is it? And we were charting the emotional path of the film.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it was, for me. It was like, okay, the movie needs to move at the speed of Connie and Connie's brain, and
Which
you
is
need.
fast.
Yes, fast, and it also the moment it emotionally dips down, it's dead.
Well,
So-
because you're as a
Yes.
viewer, you're kind of rolling through this roller coaster of a movie, and it's a lot of action, and there's things that come up where morally they're a little ambiguous. But the point is that you show in the moment. Sometimes people don't have time to think morally what they would do. They
You're just
act
going along,
things.
like, oh my God, why did I just do that? It's like, but on to the next thing. You know,
Right.
it's like, what happened?
Well, Rob, you've said that when you were starting out in this business, the ultimate thing was to be a character actor, right? And so here is a guy who has, there's nothing glamorous about this guy. This is not it's a guy who's scrambling in every sense, and physically he's different, accent-wise he's different. Talk about, from just some of those aspects, what it involved for you to get ready to play him.
Just with physicality and accent, I mean, it's kind of a lot was from developing an accent. I mean, I always really like trying to figure out what the voice of a character is, and I think an accent is it's not just from a place. It's like there's a reason why someone speaks like that, and then you can almost tell what the area is like because of the accent, and then from what the area is like, you can kind of tell how they grew up, and it's kind of reverse engineering a character rather than, I think the accent should come almost first. It's like having a walk or something. You find one little element. And I think there was just something, I just love the way the dialogue was written. It seemed very kind of jarring, and you keep, I mean, I just lived in this basement apartment in Harlem and just literally did nothing at all apart from have what is it called on the live feed of Times Square? Like I literally just had that in black and white all night, and then just sit there and just like keep filming myself on a phone to the point where like.
You're saying you did this throughout the shoot? You were staying there?
No, it was for 2 months beforehand. Like just like every single day, like do these things when you just keep saying these. And also there's another thing as well about like costume and stuff. I remember when Josh brought a few like ideas for costume things, and one of them was one of those huge like 90s Averex jackets. And normally if you're doing a costume fitting, you'd put on a costume and be like, this doesn't feel right, I feel fake in it.
Right.
And then instead of saying, okay, let's try on like a bunch of different jackets, I was just literally just like, this is the jacket, and then just make it work. And then just like you just have to sit in it and just keep figuring out how to move in it until it feels like your jacket, rather than try and think of the other way around.
I also just think, in a weird way, there's something to the British accent, that there are parts of the way that he says things that actually sound like a Queen's accent. The way you said walk, that just now it sounded like it sounded like a Queen's accent. And then Josh pointed out, he's like, it's called Queen's.
Right. Well, so Benny, I want to talk about how you wound up playing Nick, the brother, because that was that could have gone not right.
Yes.
Nick is a mentally challenged guy who is put through the grinder by his brother, who probably means well, but whatever. So I just wonder for you, would it have, did you contemplate other ways of casting that? And then ultimately, when you did become the guy playing that, how does that work when you're also co-directing?
Yeah, well, we did contemplate actually casting somebody with a developmental disability, and we thought about it, and it just seemed like in the interview process where we were meeting some really great people, it just felt like we would have to push people in certain ways and kind of manipulate them to fit our schedule, shooting action sequences, and it would just be too. It felt there's something moral that just felt wrong there.
Well, there's the sense of agency.
Yeah.
Once someone doesn't have a sense of agency, and like that's not to say that a developmentally disabled person can't act in a movie. I just saw a movie where it worked really well, but that was a movie where there's dialogue basically in a small. This is action set pieces, Benny's saying.
Yeah.
Like these are intricate things, where we're aggressive scheduling. Sorry,
And then,
I mean to go.
no. And then just to kind of touch on whether or not it was like, it it could go horribly wrong.
Right.
But I really felt that I was this guy, you know.
Right.
And when I'm playing him, I'm not gonna. I know that he has certain limitations, but the character doesn't know he has those limitations. So if I make the character aware of the limitation, then you can see the faults, and you kind of can see the facade, and it becomes maudlin.
So in between takes, let's say you as a co-director want to give some commentary to Rob.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, it would in certain. I didn't even realize it happened, but Rob pointed out the other day where it was like we're in the alley, and he just like kind of just gave 15% more of yourself to the character, just be like, get closer to me, like it's gonna make me uncomfortable, like something like that. Or Josh would come up to me and say something in my ear like, do this to like kind of force Rob into this position, and then
well, I could hit them both.
Yeah.
I could go direct Benny through Rob, and I can direct Rob through Benny.
Right.
And then for me it was also just like, okay, I know that I could just kind of go all out because Josh is there, you know. It's like to kind of catch it all, and so it's there was this physicality also between the two of us that was, whenever it happened, it was a very special moment.
Yeah.
In the elevator, I always just remember it. It's like he kind of like grabs me and pulls me close and like kisses me and says, "I love you," and it's like. That's like the last. No, but I did love it. I loved it. That was like the one moment I walked away. I was like,
Benny actually said he's like, I'm only gonna do this scene if
I can
Rob
get kissed by
me and
Rob.
say, I love you.
But
And then he actually secretly recorded it.
But but then it was like, but for what was so strange about that is that's the last thing Nick would want. You know,
it is worth noting though
but he
that
lets
this
it-
character that we wrote into the screenplay, me and Ronald Bronstein, it was a character that was developed 7 years prior that with Benny was played by, and actually that opening scene was something that was shot for that project that fell apart.
Oh,
Yeah, and
So it was like we wanted to cast somebody, but then we always had in the back of our minds like Benny can do it.
Yeah.
And it's like
He can do it well.
And it's
Yeah.
it's a weird
Absolutely.
thing to just be like, okay, yeah, I could just do that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like just take this.
That
guy.
character's in him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
I can tell.
I
He's
do.
not playing him; he's being him.
Yeah, I do feel a connection to him, and it's interesting to watch that rehearsal from like 2010, and then you fast forward to 2017, 7 years later. Like, what happens to this guy after he physically got stronger and physically can take whatever he wants? Nobody's gonna mess with him.
No.
So he gets a little bit harder, and he gets a little bit more kind of insulated, and it's like it's that much more difficult to get him into the system because he doesn't want to listen to anybody.
So this movie gets into the Cannes Film Festival, where in 2014, Rob, you had 2 movies, Map of the Stars and The Rover. So you've been there, but the reception for this was so special. I think maybe you can describe just even compared to those years where it was very positive. But this is people. What? How would you describe what went down at Cannes?
I mean, God, was it the first time we screened it at Cannes? Did anyone see
Yes,
it
it was the
beforehand?
world-
Yeah, no one had seen. Yeah, there was no. We didn't know any of the reaction for it. I mean, it's weird for me because if I like something, I've kind of had so many random reactions to things throughout the years. Like I like it and I don't care what anyone says, and so I was already prepared for anything. And so it's such an unbelievable pleasure when other people like it afterwards. But I think it's something about the energy of the movie, and it's just like 4 times the intensity of of other things that are coming out, and it's sort of everyone who sees it kind of has this reaction going, Jesus Christ!
Right, there's
like,
no
it's
middle.
like-
I'm not sure how I feel about
Exactly.
that.
But I think it was it you guys who said there was a 6-minute ovation? It was like it was an insane an insane feeling where we're just sitting there like, oh my God, these people won't stop clapping.
I had
It's
this
insane.
afterwards. They put the camera on you during the ovation, and like at one point, like with the ovation was maybe kind of died down, and then it just started up again, and they put the camera on Benny because I just forget that he's also in the movie. Like just it's just Benny. You know what I mean? Like it's what we've been doing forever. So when they put the camera on him, the whole place went crazy, and I'm like, oh wait a second. They're responding to his performance, and it just dawned upon me. Like I take it for granted. I've been taking it for granted since I was a little kid that he can do stuff like that.
They loved him, and they loved.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I picked him up. I mean, I'm not throwing shade at Rob. But like,
No, of
no. I
course,
mean, it was like a really. I mean, listen, that's like. Cannes it's been always a holy grail, it's a special place, and it's such scrutiny, and people can be tough there. and
For
it
sure.
was really
They
insane.
can boo for that
Oh
one.
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I
that's
know.
what we was.
I almost was like, I wanted to think it was fake news, but then at the same time I was like, no, this is actually the opposite of it in a
No,
weird
it's
way.
for real.
Usually it's like the hate is like kind of fake, you know what I mean?
true.
So I
Well,
don't
it's like,
know.
and
I got
hearing just
worried.
that there was like even though it was in a pause at the press screening, it's like,
Right.
oh my god, like, and somebody even just posted a pic, like just the black room with applause sounds,
Right.
and like this happened. I'm like,
It
oh
was
my God.
crazy. It was crazy.
So.
Well,
Like, dude, wait, just quickly.
Yeah.
There was somebody leaned over, and then, like 15 minutes into the movie, Josh told me the story, and they're like, "Wait, I thought Rob Pattinson was in this movie." And I was like, yeah,
Not to me, no.
but no,
to
it's somebody.
someone
It
who
was like a
watching the
story we heard. It's like,
Right.
yeah, he is. There
that's
he is.
awesome. Well, if that's not enough reason to go see the movie, I don't know what is. Thank you guys so much for doing this, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.